Welcome again to the Old Principal, 老校长的节目. Okay, we've come to another English lesson. 30 minutes of English and a little bit of Chinese here and there. Now, today's lesson is number, what is today? 60, No Man's Land, 无人区. That looks like an old picture. Can you see that picture? That's an old picture from a long time ago. Okay, so today we're talking about war. Now, before we begin, we need to have Mrs. Ash come read. So we'll ask her to come up here, join me here, and will you mind reading for us?
Not at all.
Okay, here we go.
It was a few weeks before Christmas in 1917. The beautiful snowy landscapes of Europe were blackened by war. It was World War I, and the Germans were in their trenches on one side of the battlefield, and the Americans were on the other side. The shooting was intense. Between these two companies of soldiers was a thin strip of no man's land. A young German soldier trying to cross no man's land had become caught in the tangle of barbed wire. He cried out for help. Whenever there was a lull in the noise of battle, the Americans could hear him scream. Finally, one American soldier could stand this crying no longer and carefully crawled out of the safety of his trench to help the German. Right away, the Americans stopped firing for fear of hitting their own man. Then, the German officer realized what the young American was doing and ordered his men to also cease firing. Now, there was a weird silence across the no man's land. On his stomach, the American made his way over to the German soldier and disentangled him. He then stood up with the German in his arms, walked straight to the German trenches, and placed him in the waiting arms of his comrades. Having done so, he turned and started back to the American trenches. Suddenly, there was a hand on his shoulder that spun him around. There stood a German officer who had won the Iron Cross, the highest German honor for bravery. He jerked it from his own uniform and placed it on the American, who then walked back to his own company of soldiers. When he was safely back in the American trenches, they resumed the insanity of war.
Okay, thank you so much. You're free for a few minutes at least. Okay, so we are talking about war, 战争. Okay, and this is First World War, 第一次的世界大战. Okay, so with that, let's begin today's lesson, and we'll look at the way it reads here. It was a few weeks before Christmas in 1917. 1917 is a long time ago. My father was just a little boy in 1917. Okay, the beautiful snowy landscape. Okay, now, what is a landscape? Sometimes you can say 风景. In this case is, okay, snow. It's a 白雪地. Okay, so it is snow on the ground, And everywhere you see snow, and it looks beautiful, right? Looks beautiful. Okay, so here you have the beautiful snowy landscapes of the Fongjing of Europe. Okay, just Ozhou. But now something has happened. Something bad has happened. They were blackened by war. Now, I understand that the Chinese has a saying that says, 被黑云 what? 黑云笼罩着，被黑云笼罩着， or 乌云笼罩着. Okay, so it was beautiful, but now it is blackened by war. In this case, blackened by war has two meanings. Literal, that means 真的这白色就有些地方是变黑了. But it also has another meaning. 它的含义是black. Black is a bad color. There's no color. It's black. And it usually means evil or very, very bad. 很坏, 很坏. Okay, going on. It was World War I, 第一次世界大战. And the Germans were in their trenches. 德国队在他们的战壕. 一个战壕 is a trench. A trench is like a ditch, except in this case, the trench is for the use of for armies. You hide in there so you don't get hit by a bullet. Okay? So they were in the trenches on one side of the battlefield, the 战地, okay, battlefield, and the Americans were on the other. 另外一边是美国人. Okay, go on. The shooting was intense. 开枪 shooting, okay, shooting was intense, 很激烈. The shooting was intense. Between these two companies of soldiers was a thin strip, 一条地. Okay, strip. Strip means something that's long. Okay, so between these two strips, these two groups of soldiers was a strip of land, and we have a special name for that. No man's land, 无人区. Okay, so this is no man's land. You don't want to be in no man's land. Why? Because the bullets, 这个子弹, are flying over your head. It's very dangerous. No man's land is a dangerous place to be. Okay, so we move on here. A young German soldier trying to cross no man's land had become caught in a tangle of barbed wire. Okay, let's take a look. Had become caught. That means he got stuck inside of the wire. But first of all, what is barbed wire? You could translate it 铁丝网, 铁丝网. But this kind of 铁丝网 is a little bit different. This type of wire is called barbed wire. Do you know what a barb is? A barb is a 刺, 刺. So this wire has 有刺的. Okay, and so you can't get near it because 你会受伤啊. Okay, but the young German soldier trying to cross no man's land. So he was trying to go across no man's land, became caught in a tangle of barbed wire. That means he got stuck in the wire. He couldn't go forward. He couldn't go backward. He was just there. Okay, going on. He cried for help. Okay, cried, 尖叫, cried for help. Many different translations for cried. Of course, cry means 哭, okay, but also it means 尖叫. And a little later on, we'll even see 哀嚎. Okay, so he cried for help. Whenever there was a lull in the noise, okay, whenever there was a lull, you know what a lull is? 暂停. Okay, lull is 暂停. Okay, in the noise, that's the sound. Okay, 这个声音 of battle, 战争的声音呢. The Americans could hear him scream. Again, to cry, to scream, 尖叫. That's for sure, 尖叫. Okay. Going on. Finally, one American soldier could stand this crying. Okay, 忍耐不住. Okay. Could stand this crying no longer. 忍耐不住. Remember, no, he could not stand this crying, or he could stand the crying no longer. Okay? And so what did he do? He carefully crawled, 就爬在地上. He carefully crawled out of the safety of his trench, 就离开他自己的战壕. Okay, and of course, safety meaning 在这个战壕是安全之地. It's a safe place to be. Okay, of his trench, and he went to do what? He went to help the German. Okay, now remember, these are enemies. These are enemies. So the American now is going to go help the German. Going on to the next one. Okay. Right away, the Americans stopped firing. Okay. 他们停止开枪 firing their guns. You could put in there firing their guns. For 是怕他们会怎么样打到自己的人. Okay. Going on, next. Then the German officer realized then the German officer realized what the young American was doing, and so he ordered 命令 his men to also cease 停止开枪 cease firing. So the German officer, 这个德国军官, he realized, 明白, okay, what the young American was doing, and he ordered his men also to cease firing. Stop firing. Okay, next. Now there was a weird silence. Weird silence across no man's land. Weird. Weird is a weird word. A weird word. It's a strange word. Weird means strange. 奇怪. The silence. That means there's no noise. It's quiet. Okay? It's quiet. Across 在这个无人区这块地. Going on. What did he do? On his stomach. Okay, now we looked at to crawl, right? To crawl is to 爬在地上. This one is even more so. On his stomach. 匍匐, 匍匐 means to crawl on your stomach. Okay, the American made his way. To make your way somewhere means to go somewhere. So the American made his way. The American went, go, over to the German soldier. He went over to the German soldier, okay, and disentangled him. Okay, now, tangle means that the man and the wire got mixed together. They're all mixed up. That's tangle. To disentangle means to 解开, so that he's free again. Okay, so the American disentangled him. Going on. Then he stood up. Whoa! 这不简单. Then he stood up. Okay, and with the German in his arms, 手拉着手. Okay, 手拉着手. With the German in his arm, he walked straight to the German trenches. 走到这个站好，这个德国人的站好 okay? And placed him, 就把他放在 what? The waiting arms. This is a waiting arms, okay, of his comrades. In this case, comrades are 他的战友. Okay, of course, they had their arms wide open to welcome back their 战友, their comrade. Okay, next. Having done so, now he's finished with his job. Having done so, he turned and started back to the American trenches. So he turned, 转身, and started to go back, walk back to the American trenches. Going on. Okay. Okay, sorry, too fast. Okay, suddenly there was a hand on his shoulder. Oh, 很可怕. This is war. This is not a happy time. A hand on the shoulder that spun 转他的身体, that spun him around. Okay, that spun him around. Okay, going on. There stood a German officer. 他就面对一个德国军官, a German officer. Now, this German officer was a very 很勇敢的一个 German officer. He had won the Iron Cross. 所以他有一个奖章, it's called 铁十字架. So he must have been a very brave person. Okay, the highest German honor for bravery, 德国给的最勇敢的一个 honor, 荣誉. Okay, now what happens? Notice, Going on. Here he jerked it from his own uniform. 他就把这个 Iron Cross 这个铁十字架拽下来 ripped it off of his own uniform and placed it on the American. 就这个弄在他的衣服上 who then walked back to his own company. Okay, so the American then walked back to his own company. In this way, company 他的团队 okay, 他的团队 to his company of soldiers. Okay, going on. When he was safely back, 他很安全地回到the American trenches. When he was safe back in the American trenches, they resumed. What does it mean to resume? To resume means to start again. 他们又开始 the insanity of war. 战争的疯狂 the insanity of war. Of course, fighting and war is insanity. 疯狂的战争 Okay, now, maybe we can get Mrs. Ash here. Suddenly my mind has gone blank here, so I hope she has something to say. Okay, welcome back. Neither you and I have been in war, have you? So
we were born during World War II.
That's right. Speak up. We were born during World War II, but neither one of us knows much about war. Actually, your father, maybe you can tell why your father never went to war.
Yes, my father had high blood pressure, so he wasn't, well.
He didn't go to war.
Yeah, he didn't
They
go
were
to war.
afraid that he might. But what was your father's occupation?
He was an eye, ear, nose, and throat doctor.
So he was a doctor.
Yes.
So do you think they could use doctors in the army?
Oh, yes.
Oh, of course. But for some reason, because he had high blood pressure, 高血压, so he didn't have to go to war. My father didn't have to go to war either, which was very strange. So my father worked with my grandfather, and they built houses, and they built roads, and they built bridges. So the government, 这个政府 said, you are too important. We want you to build an airport. So if you go to Corvallis, Oregon today, and you go to the airport in 这个飞机场, the airport, at least the 跑道, okay, of the airport was built by my father in World War II. So we're talking about World War II because 第二次世界大战. So,
Yes.
so did you know anybody that came back from war that had a hard time forgetting the bad things that they remembered?
I don't recall anybody personally that I knew.
Actually, I know one person that had a struggle, and that is your Nelda Victoria. Her brother was in the Vietnamese war.
Mhm.
Okay, and that war is a terrible thing.
Yes.
In fact, there's a saying. It says, "Peace costs less than war."
Mm.
Peace costs less than war. War is very, very terrible. Do you have any other thoughts about war?
Well, it affects those back at home too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How would it affect people back home?
They would be anxious, much more anxious with their father or their husband in war.
Right. And
Yes.
is it possible that some of them never ever came home?
That's absolutely right.
And so they were killed in the war,
Yes.
and then they go, and then the wife and the children have no father.
Yes.
So war is a terrible thing, and to be avoided at all costs. Well, we've come to the end of No Man's Land. And so what we're going to do now is share with you our email address. Okay, our email address is theoldprinciple, Lao Xiaozhang, okay, at gmail.com. Okay, theoldprinciple at gmail.com. Don't run away. I'm going to ask you another question, by the way. So don't run away.
Okay.
Now, we also have a website, and the website is www.theoldprinciple.org. Okay, we got another few seconds. Okay, would you like to receive a letter? An email? People send you an email.
Sure, I would like that.
Okay, and so if you want to send my wife an email, send her an email at this email address. And we look forward to seeing you again.